Every couple of months, the media will do coverage on this and be like, why is everybody so upset about crime when it seems like crime is objectively down?
Stage and abject weirdos in the audience, from attendees wearing bandages on their ears to matched Trumps to this guy crashing a reporter's shot in a "Where is the Epstein client list" t-shirt to this woman in a bride-to-be sash having the most cursed bachelorette party in existence. It feels like she told her bridesmaid she wanted to see a bunch of dicks on stage and they tragically misunderstood the assignment. Although, to be fair, if anything screams last night of freedom, it is the Republican National Convention. There was also Hulk Hogan tearing his shirt off, Kid Rock scream-singing to a crowd that was either not into it or way too into it, and a speech from Perry Johnson, a failed presidential candidate from Michigan who put his all into rallying the crowd, only to be played off by the band with the best possible song choice.
President Trump is ready to save our country, to make America great again. I am ready to do whatever is necessary to get Trump back in the White House. Are you with me? Yes! 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 Trump! 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 Let's do it!
Somebody once told me the world is gonna roll me. I ain't the sharpest tool in the shed.
Yeah, he got smash-mouthed. And while there is never a good time to play that song, the funniest time for the lyric "not the sharpest tool in the shed" is immediately following a pro-Trump speech by a man who apparently showed both his plastic surgeon and hairstylist a photo of Holland Taylor and said, "This, please." Now, going into the week, we were repeatedly told that in the wake of the assassination attempt on Trump, we should expect something very different from this convention.
Trump claims the moment has now changed him. He said he will adopt a different tone going forward in this campaign.
Look, this is going to be a different tone.
The attack on Trump has changed the storyline and the tone of this convention, with the former president calling for unity.
Yeah, but that was never going to happen. Because you expect to see certain things at the RNC. Elephant logos, cowboy hats, a massive spike in Grindr usage. But a message of unity...
I got delivery. Hold on. Yeah, apparently I got birthday boys got some birthday gifts. I'm picking them up right now. Hold on.
...is not something traditionally associated with that event, or indeed this man. And unsurprisingly, the RNC was in no way toned down.
The Democrats' disastrous record on crime, trade, and regulation has ruined the lives of countless Minnesotans.
Democrats come for your kids. They're indoctrinating them with poisonous attitudes on race and gender.
We become totally unhinged if Donald Trump is not elected in November.
Okay. All of that was awful, but that last camera cut was just spectacular. If you had asked me what is next to this guy just out of the frame and given me 1,000 guesses, there is no way I'm saying a lumpy bulldog lounging in an armchair like it's being interviewed at the 92nd Street Y. And do not drag a bulldog to the RNC. Life is hard enough for them. To have the soul of a wolf trapped inside the body of a wrinkly bowling ball, to be inbred.
Oh my God, he's talking about Baby Dog. I came at the right time, dude. God, I love Baby Dog. I love Baby Dog. That's my favorite. Are there captions available? Maybe. Wait, is he disparaging her? Wait, he is disparaging her. You bastard. Yo, we do not disparage Baby Dog in this household. He's body shaming Baby Dog. No, that's up. Like, Baby Dog is fat, but you need to body appreciate and not body shame. That dog has type 2 diabetes. That dog is not, he ain't fat. Pleasantly plump. That dog ain't fat. He pleasantly plump. He got big bone. That a big bone boy right there. That Baby Dog is big bone. That right there. Oh my God.
Do not drag a bulldog to the RNC. Life is hard enough for them. To have the soul of a wolf trapped inside the body of a wrinkly bowling ball, to be inbred over centuries into the perfect genetic car crash. That dog doesn't deserve to be made into a prop at the RNC. It deserves...
What the hell? What the hell? That baby dog. He out here talking about baby dog like that. We gotta deport this man. Deport the English. Dump the tea. You better not be disparaging baby dog.
A rawhide bone and an apology from humanity. And that was all before we got to Trump's bonkers 90-minute plus speech.
No, he just called baby dog a car crash victim. I hate this accent. Sorry, I'm sorry. When I see baby dog, I just turn into an old-timey Southern racist. I'm not sorry. I do turn into a country lawyer. I'm a small-town country lawyer. I'm trying desperately not to say boy in this accent because automatically I feel like it just sounds racist. She's just chonky. This accent calls me the N-word. Boy with a hard Y. Some my epigenetics don't like this accent. I know. I'm sorry. You're a wealthy socialist being pampered while speaking to the downtrodden. Bro, come on. The downtrodden.
Thursday, in which he initially promised that he was running to be president of all of America, not half of America, but quickly went off-prompter to rant about crazy Nancy Pelosi and the China virus and repeatedly suggest the 2020 election was stolen. But the big theme that he and so many other speakers kept returning to this week was this.
We have to stop the invasion into our country that's hundreds of thousands of people a year.
That was the craziest, like, that's just a line that he keeps repeating now. And I find that so psychotic. Like, it's one of those statements where you're just like, this is such an insane thing that he just said that I haven't even like, what? She was 17 years old, 360. What are you? Ew. What? We've moved past this story. I don't know why you're like, we're over here talking about the RNC being racist and this guy is still trying to make jokes about like 17-year-olds. That's weird. Pipe down, libertarians. Calm down, okay? This is not your convention. We already watched your convention. It was a shit show. Anyway, so the Trump statement about hundreds of thousands of Americans are murdered every day or every year by migrants. It's like one of those statements where it's like, it's so wild. Like, it is such an obvious lie. And it is obviously like harnessing so much racist energy within it. But because of the numbers that are so beyond the pale that like you kind of can't, like you can't even like take it seriously. And I think that's maybe the reason why the media doesn't take it seriously, or they're just like asleep at the wheel, because it just, I don't know how to parse through it. It's just completely made up. Like he's not even saying like, oh, 10,000 migrants are responsible, like, or I don't know, like 500 migrants did crimes this past year and that's like unacceptable. He says 100,000 murders were committed by migrants. Okay. Yeah. Last year, there were 23 homicides by undocumented migrants. Holy shit. It's lower than I thought. I said 500 because I was like, there's a lot of undocumented migrants. Not 100, hundreds of thousands of undocumented migrant murders are happening. I need to look this up. Hold on. It's going to be like, this question is going to be like VDARE. Like only VDARE is going to respond. This is classic. Illegal immigrants have a low homicide conviction rate, setting the record straight on illegal immigrant crime. Obviously, it's from the Cato Institute. Libertarians, they come in clutch on this issue, at least. Not other issues. Don't look at the other issues, like age of consent. The homicide conviction rate for illegal immigrants was 2.4 per 100,000 illegal immigrants in 2015, which is lower than the homicide conviction rate of 2.8 per 100,000 native-born Americans. Legal immigrants still have the lowest homicide conviction rate at 1.1 per 100,000 legal immigrants. Those rates are similar across the years, which data is available for. What is the total number, though? Criminal non-citizen statistics. Arrest of individuals with criminal convictions. Assault, battery, domestic violence. Okay, homicide, manslaughter. Oh my God. Shut the up. Fiscal year 2017, 3. Fiscal year 18, 3. Fiscal year 2019, 2. Fiscal year 2023, fiscal year 2021, 60. Fiscal year 2022, 62. fiscal year 2023, 29, fiscal year 2024 up until now, 23. Now think about how high profile it is when an undocumented migrant actually engages in homicide or manslaughter. I used to joke and say, anytime an undocumented migrant commits a like gross, heinous crime, you hear about it. It turns out it's not a joke. They literally have to look at every single individual case. Trump has brought forward at least 23 different cases, which means that he literally waits for an undocumented migrant to do a homicide so he can talk about it. Do you want to know? Do you want to know what like the total number of homicide and manslaughter cases are in those years? Okay? Because we can look that up as well. If you want to understand, all homicides in general in 2022, for example, all homicides in 2022 was 24,849. 62 were committed by undocumented migrants. 62. This is why when these guys try to talk about this shit, I always try to be like, the numbers are insane. Their response is 62 too many. No, that's bullshit, dude. You can't say that when they represent 0.25% of the data, okay? It's like trying to solve drunk driving by, I mean, I don't even, what is something that is analogous? Like, I can't even find an adequate analogy in this situation because it's such a tiny drop in the puddle. It's like your house is on fire and that's the moment that you thought is a good opportunity to change your curtain color, okay? It's complaining about the color of the curtains while the house is on fire. 62 is 0. It's even less. It's 0.025. It's like trying to stop teenage smoking by preventing a single classroom from having cigarettes. I mean, it's exactly like their obsession with trans athletes when there's like 4 of them. But unlike trans athletes, there's a shit ton more undocumented migrants. So like, I mean, it's just still lying. You know what I mean? There is a shit ton more undocumented migrants. They're just not represented in the crime data because they just don't do crime at the same rate that natural born U.S. citizens do crime. Move out if you don't like it. Go help their country. Trump 2024. Do you believe everything on the internet? Dude, this is the government website. This is the Customs and Border Patrol's government website. If you don't believe the Customs and Border Patrol's own data, who do you believe? Do you think they're also woke and gay? Or are they the brave warriors defending this country? Bro, you can't deal with people that are this stupid. You just cannot have a conversation with a person who is actively hallucinating a problem. Like, I don't know how to deal with you. If I show you Customs and Border Patrol's own data and your immediate reaction is, I don't believe it. I don't believe it. It's on a website, brother. What the f do you mean? It's like, I can't talk to you. You are like barely human. You're not human. You're like a sea cucumber. How have you been kept alive? Modern medicine has gone too far. Society has gone too far. Natural selection would have taken you out 3 seconds in under other circumstances. You're like an animal, dude. No, an animal has self-preservation, please. Like, that's insane. 62 murders and 12,000 is pretty bad, not gonna lie. What are you talking about? It's the same attitude when we talk about drugs, right? I'm sure he's trying to say 100,000 because like fentanyl deaths. He's like saying all of the drugs were brought by undocumented migrants. And there's data for that as well. Lo and behold, if you go to the Department of Homeland Security's own data, 90% of the drugs that are apprehended at the border come from regular points of entry. It's not routine border crossers. It's American citizens that are trafficking the fentanyl, dumbass. So it's not even like these undocumented migrants that are like trafficking the drugs secretly. So it makes no dang sense to have this conversation over and over and over again. Yes, the chemical compounds for fentanyl comes through like shipping containers from China, and other drugs come through regular points of entry like ports or regular border crossings. And it doesn't, like, it just doesn't make sense. Like, I don't know how I can have this conversation with people, because like it objectively doesn't make sense to try and ship metric tons of fentanyl in like the buttholes and pockets of like random people crossing the border. The risk is so unimaginably high. You know what does make sense? Getting an American to drive down to Tijuana, okay, and then chop up their car and put the fentanyl in the car and have that American drive the car back with the hopes that they don't get caught. Here is the DHS fact sheet. More than 90% of fentanyl interdicted is stopped at ports of entry, where cartels attempt to smuggle it to, primarily in vehicles driven by U.S. citizens. But I don't believe it. You believe every single thing you see online, brother. Get the f out of here. What website is this from? Oh, the Department of Homeland Security. That's the website it's from. Okay? These are not like woke government websites. This is Department of Homeland Security. Okay? Every part of this conversation is completely made up, because much like the previous situation where that guy had no interest in like actually trying to get the story from a potential grooming victim, okay? These people don't care about stopping drugs from coming over the border. They just don't like migrants. And it's not that they don't like migrants, it's that they think migrants are like rapist drug dealers and murderers and stealing their wives and stealing their daughters to kidnap them and steal their jobs and also steal the welfare at the same time somehow. They're both stealing the jobs, and they're stealing the jobs of the criminals and also stealing the welfare too. Isn't this also not just people who cross the border, but anyone who's a non-citizen? So an asylum seeker from South America, some tech bro from Vancouver visa would be tallied together? Yes. Yeah, but if you considered, come on. Yeah, that's what Trump said. Come on. So it's one of these situations where like the data is immediately available. It's immediately available. It's readily available. You can find it on your own if you want to. And I talk about it quite frequently. And instead of like, can you provide a link for these sources? Bro, it's right there, dude. It's right there. cbp.gov, dude. Like, Google it on your own. You will arrive at this. Homicide numbers are at the CDC website, National Center for Health Statistics. And this is from the Department of Homeland Security's own website. The website. They don't want to actually learn the truth or the root cause. They want to demonize migrants. That's easier for them. Yeah. 12 million Guatemalans are injecting fentanyl into the Lincoln Memorial right now. They're trying to Abraham Lincoln. Okay. Abraham Lincoln Riley. They're trying to do that. They're injecting fentanyl directly to his veins, brother. You better stop it now. Military-age Guatemalans, the scariest kind. Abraham Lincoln, who simultaneously was a Republican, and I'll remind you, but also the Confederates were the good guys in that war. Please stop asking me questions about American history, okay? History is woke and gay. Asshole trying to do DEI. That's some woke side. Probably the Department of Homosexual Sex. DHS. The Department of Homosexual Sex.gov. Oh, wow. Coming at me with this DHS. That's right. It's got the D in it for diversity. Hey, I work for the Diversity, Homosexuality, and Sexual Intercourse website. The government facility where they're teaching you how to have diverse gay sex. Fucking hate it. I'm kind of losing it. Okay, let's continue.
It has welcomed into our country rapists, murderers, even terrorists.
And we are facing an unprecedented invasion of millions of illegal aliens across our southern border.
It looks like and it feels like an invasion because it is.
We are facing an invasion on our southern border. Not figuratively.
I'm glad that we just like went through the data as I have a million times over. And this is like, it's so sad. You can find any immigration video I've done since like 2016 where I have been repeating the same statistics over and over and over again. And it's just like, it seemingly gets worse. Like, the more the truth becomes glaringly obvious, the less Republicans are likely to hear it. Okay. And I don't know what to do about it. I don't know. I just like, I can get you 2023 data. Okay. Don't worry about it.
A literal invasion.
I do not like that man, Ted Cruz. I do not like his toxic views. I do not like his nasty speeches. I do not like the shit he preaches. I do not like him when he fishes. I do not like him when he kisses. Pulling off that beard he ain't, that man, Ted Cruz, looks like a taint. And I will say, I know the Republican Party gets a lot of shit for only landing D-list celebrities, but I do have to hand it to them. Booking the actual pair from the American Gothic painting was a pretty good get. And look, it's no accident Republicans were focusing so hard on immigration. Recent polling shows it's the second most important issue among Americans. But a big reason for that is the relentless bad faith fear-mongering around the issue by the Republican Party itself. Perhaps best summed up by the startling growth this year of the toxic phrase migrant crime. Now, starting in late January, Fox began using it a lot, and always to build a very specific narrative.
Concerns of a migrant crime wave are growing across New York City.
Every third day, there's a story about some sort of migrant crime.
There's a migrant crime spree, Americans, and the president's an accessory to murder.
Yeah, out of nowhere, there was a surge in talk of migrant crime, which went from occasional mentions in December and January to over 300 mentions in February. Basically, migrant crime is a phrase that seemed to come out of nowhere and then was suddenly all over the place, like what the Sigma and skibbity toilet. And by the way, those are real phrases used by the younger generations, or they were, until I just ruined them by having them slide out of my old mouth. And as the use of that term skyrocketed...
Crossing the border illegally, I think that's what they're talking about. No, man, they're not saying migrant crime is just simply crossing the border illegally. They're saying that they're crossing the border illegally and then doing crimes like rape and murders. Like, what do you mean? They're calling it an invasion.
Rocketed, there was a correlating spike in concern about immigration, with the number of Americans who viewed it as their #1 issue jumping 8 points between January and February. But this wasn't reflecting anything happening in the real world. Because to be very clear, there is no migrant crime wave happening right now. In fact, there is no crime wave at all. Crime in general has been trending downward in recent years, including this.
Even though undocumented entries have trended upwards, which, by the way, once again, proves, I guess, that undocumented immigrants are not responsible for extra crime. There, as a matter of fact, what was your source for the immigration homicide stats? Customsandborderpatrol.gov, customsandborderpatrol.gov. Please just use Google. Please, 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 please just use Google. It is literally free. You can just go to Google and be like, Customs and Border Patrol, criminal non-citizen statistics, Customs and Border Patrol, immigrant crime statistics. These are things that you can do on your own, okay? I love you guys. I know you just want to be the most, like, you know, the most knowledgeable on the situation, but, like, you don't have to ask me every time.
With murder, rape, robbery and property crime all decreasing, even as talk of migrants committing those crimes has exploded. As for migrant crime specifically, experts will tell you there is no
A rightoid told me the FBI was compromised when I tried to tell them the stats that crime is down.
Evidence of a relationship between somebody's immigrant status and their involvement in crime. In fact, while most states don't track crime data by immigration status, in the one state that does, Texas, researchers have found the illegal immigrant criminal conviction rate is roughly 45% below that of native-born Americans. And yet, despite that, there has been a wave of conservatives claiming there is a wave of migrant crime. And that is almost definitely going to be continuing until November. So given that, tonight, let's talk about migrant crime. And let's start with where exactly the term came from. Because if you listen to Trump, which obviously you should not, he'll say it was all his idea.
It's a new category. I don't know if you've heard this, but I came up with this one, migrant crime. There's violent crime, there's migrant crime. We have a new category of crime. It's called migrant crime, and it's going to be worse than any other form of crime.
OK. Obviously, that is not a new category of crime, and obviously he didn't invent it, because you can't invent putting two words together. Although, I will say he has tried to innovate the phrase. At one point this year, he told an audience that it should be called Biden migrant crime, but that's too long, which is true. And luckily, he workshopped a solution to that problem in real time.
Because Joe Biden allowed this to happen, we will call it from now on Biden migrant crime, okay? It's migrant crime. This is, we'll call it, I got it, migrant. Let's go at migrant. Biden crime. Oh, that's good. That's smart. Migrant crime.
Okay, I'll give him this. He did coin the term migrant crime. You can have that one, Doniel. It is the stupidest term I've ever heard, but it is all yours. And I love the fact that he literally pointed to...
God, he's so smart. He's so smart. He should definitely keep talking about how stupid Kamala Harris is. It's like, this is what I mean when I say, like, look, Kamala Harris's takes on Gaza earlier today aside, it is objectively idiotic for Donald Trump to be like, no, she's stupid. I call it migrant crime. It's like, dude, come on. Your whole selling point is that you're like kind of a dumb guy. You know what I mean? You're like the everyman. Like, you're like not exactly this like annoying, elitist, intelligent guy. You should be calling them a nerd. You know what I mean? Like a freaking nerd, an elitist, a person who's like out of touch.
To his head when he said, that's smart. Almost like he was saying, I know where thoughts come from, and it's not here, or here, or here. It's here. This is where the smart comes from. I call it my smart lump, or smump. I came up with that one too. But if you go back and actually look, the event that prompted first Fox and then Trump to start pushing the term migrant crime was a brawl that happened on January 27th of this year in Times Square. You may even remember the police released this 45-second clip of officers fighting with a group of migrants. It got a ton of play on Fox, where one particular detail about what happened afterward got extra attention.
A gang of migrants broke into the country, pummeled 2 NYPD officers, and while walking out of jail without bail, flipped the double bird to the country that let him in.
That was objectively awesome.
The 2 birds heard around the world. The symbol of the Biden presidency, right there.
OK, for the record, the symbol for the Biden presidency is absolutely not 2 birds. As we all know, it is a bunch of piss-stained Democrats nervously Googling, how old is a person allowed to be? But that image of the guy flipping off the camera was used constantly on Fox from February through early March. It was used in at least 66 segments during that period, with the man's fingers blurred out, presumably, to protect the eyes of the innocent children who are forced to watch Fox News at grandma's while they eat their dinosaurs lived with humans nuggets.
Do you think that there are any people out there who see this and go, honestly, like, it's kind of fucked that we got duped by this? Like, do you think that there's anyone out there who, like, can be reasoned with if they're that tapped in? I legitimately don't know how to deal with this shit.
Fox kept hammering their coverage of that incident, with perhaps the apex being a segment where Sean Hannity did an interview with Curtis Sliwa, the head of the vigilante group The Guardian Angels, live from Times Square. Now, during the interview, Sliwa's fellow angels suddenly mobilised towards something off camera, and he later explained they'd had to get physical with a migrant whom they'd seen committing a crime.
Well, he had been shoplifting first. The Guardian Angels spotted him, stopped him. He resisted. And let's just say we gave him a little pain compliance. His mother back in Venezuela felt the vibrations. He's sucking concrete. The cops scraped him off the asphalt. He's on his...
This is pure fascism, by the way. Like, there's no other way to put it. There's no other way to explain it. Like, this is brown shirt behavior. It's pure fascism. I remember when it first happened, it was like kind of shocking that it would be like that flagrant, and that people would basically just like kind of think this is dope.
His way to jail, but they'll cut him loose. We got to take 42nd Street back, Sean. These illegals think they own this street. They think they rule the night. This is our country. If they can't abide by the rules, then we're going to kick them back from where they came.
Hold on. First, rule the night on 42nd Street? I call bullshit. Anyone who lives here knows the night there is ruled by groups of 13-year-olds leaving Aladdin on their way to the Red Lobster 1 block away. Let me say this clearly. Immigrants are not invading our country, and they are not taking over 42nd Street. But if they are, they can have it. But there's a few other things that feel important to mention about that. First, you can't just beat someone up if you think...
I will say something that John Oliver will not say because he's allergic to criticizing the Democratic Party. But actually, that's not true. He criticized the Democratic Party quite a bit, but I don't know if he'll actually address it in this situation. And that is that there's a big part. He does criticize them on this? Okay, never mind.
Think they're committing a crime. And second...
No, not specifically calling them pants pissers. But like, I think that he does criticize the Democratic Party. I said I'm wrong. I caught myself and I corrected it in literally a second. A big part of this equation is something that I've been very upset about, something I talked to Estet about earlier today, which is that the Democrats also have never addressed this. Like, they just don't. They don't address it at all. And it blows my mind that they don't do that, because the Republican Party brings up immigration and immigrant crime every 2 years, right before a midterm and right before a general election. So like it's not unexpected. You know they're going to do that. So how the f do you not have like a narrative built up against it? And it's not even a counter narrative. Really, it's just addressing it truthfully, addressing the matter truthfully. That is what the Democrats should be doing, going, this is all completely made up. Here is the data. And when the Democrats don't address this, okay, and they don't like openly gear up against these hysterical lies, and worse, lean into them and advocate for right-wing immigration policies that completely capitulate the right-wing framing, that normalize and legitimize said right-wing framing as though immigration is a consequence for national security. When they do that, they lose. It's that simple. Not only have they now officially pushed the American political discourse surrounding this issue further and further right into fascism territory, but they also are losing electorally to it. So I don't get it. Like, do you not have a single self-preservation bone in your goddamn body? Like, what the phone on? You're allowing your otherwise supposedly moderate, your otherwise supposedly moderate constituents to also fall victim to this kind of right-wing framing. It's abhorrent.
And you should never go out in public dressed like that. He looks like Alan Arkin playing one of the Angry Birds. He looks like a divorced strawberry. He looks like if the G.I. Joes had an off-hours bowling team. But it gets worse, because it turned out the man they'd beaten up wasn't actually a migrant at all, and there was no evidence to support the allegation he was shoplifting. It seems like what actually happened is that Sliwar's goons apprehended the guy for allegedly attempting to disrupt a live interview, which is not a crime and also not what he did, since surveillance footage apparently shows he was just trying to maneuver through the crowd when the vigilantes confronted him. But Sliwar said he believed the man was a migrant because he was speaking Spanish.
Oh man, how could we have stopped this from happening? How could we have foreseen this? How could we allow a bunch of jackbooted thugs who literally dress up in red as opposed to brown, by the way, run around and do like hate crimes? Where have I seen this throughout history? Where have I seen this happen? It hasn't even been 100 years since the last time this happened. This is Hitlerian bullshit, okay? This is Nazi Germany. We're doing a rerun of Nazi Germany shit. And I don't mean this in like an exaggerated fashion. I mean, like, literally we're doing that. Nazis also hated trans people. Nazis also routinely talked about the moral degeneracy from Jewish intellectuals in colleges that are making the country too woke, okay? They didn't say woke. That's precisely what we're doing.
Something that could be said of about...
What do you think the Democrats should say? Oh, crime, low wages, and high rent costs is the fault of capitalism and not invading migrants. As Brecht said, it's a choice between barbarism or communism every time. No, I suspect the Democrats... Dude, I'm not expecting the Democrats to be like, advocating for the international proletarian uprising or some shit, okay? Just say the truth, which is that there is no migrant crime. It is a completely made up and utterly racist phenomena cultivated by hysterical people. But they repeat it over and over again and people believe it. It's just made up. Is that too hard to be like, hey, Democrats, when Republicans are just like making racist shit up, just don't lean into it and instead address it head on and be like, that's made up. You made that up. Here's the truth. No joke, but I kind of given up even normies immune to facts. I mean, dude, we experienced this when I talked to Jank, my uncle, who I love and have deep admiration for and deep respect for. And I just kept pulling data directly in front of him. I was like, dude, what are you talking about? I tried to talk to him through the anecdotes that he would bring forward. And I would be like, walk through this anecdote. Do you think that the cops are just like not logging crimes that are occurring, okay, when they do happen? And he just would, you can't reason with some people. There's just nothing you can do when stubborn older folks make up their minds on certain issues. They just like will not be shaken from that position. You just cannot do it. I don't know if they also like personally run the weird like migrant crime narrative too, or they say they aren't prosecuting crimes or making arrests so the crime looks lower. Yeah, I know, it's ridiculous. It's completely ridiculous.
Roughly 25% of this city, including, by the way, me. ¿Qué vas a hacer, Curtis Lewa? Soy inmigrante y estoy hablando español. ¿Me vas a mandar tu pendejos, hijo de puta? Tu cara es demasiado estúpida y tu cara también. Eres una mierda y no creo que tu mamá esté orgullosa de ti. And it turns out, even the facts of the original Times Square incident that started all of this fell apart in similar fashion, because when more camera footage came out, it revealed how the whole incident had begun and made the NYPD look less like unwitting victims and more like the instigators.
NYPD body cam video takes...
That chatter just said, you should clip this for yourself in the next 20 years. Brother, there's plenty of woke-ass, based-ass old people that I love and admire and talk about all the time, okay? I hope to be like them and not like my uncle on the issue of crime.
Us inside that Times Square brawl that made national headlines. That and new surveillance video police released, raising more questions tonight whether the January altercation should have happened at all. The two officers approached the group of men.
Vamos, what's core one?
The crowd is giving direction to please disperse, that they're blocking the sidewalk.
The video doesn't support that, as people are seen walking by. Most of the group immediately moves, but Yohenry Brito in yellow is the last to leave, telling police, "Don't touch me." But when he starts to finally obey the officer's orders, pushing the stroller away, the group begins singing a derogatory song. And then this. Immediately after Brito yells, "Looks like Ugly Betty" to the group, the officer is shown pushing him up against a wall.
Yeah, if you watch the wide shot, it becomes clear that what set the whole scuffle off is one cop choosing to push that guy up against a wall after the other one got called Ugly Betty. And for what it's worth, this is what the cop looked like. And if you're thinking, well, he only kind of looks like Ugly Betty, let me remind you, in Latin America, Ugly Betty looks like this, and that is a fair hit. And violence is not an acceptable response to someone being insulted that correctly. You think there haven't been moments when I haven't wanted to throw someone against a wall because they called me Worst Sheldon, or a less sexual Screech, or what would happen if the rat and the chef and Ratatouille? Sure. It hurts my feelings, Mom, but it's also fair and it doesn't justify violence. But wait, because there's one more twist here. Remember the guy flipping the double birds who was on Fox News at least 66 times? The symbol of migrant crime. Well, funny story, the Manhattan DA ended up dismissing the charges against him because it turned out he had nothing to do with the incident. He wasn't even there. The NYPD apparently mistook him for a completely different person for a mystery reason that I'm sure wasn't racist at all. So he was arrested for something he didn't do, spent 2 nights in jail, and then had cameras shoved in his face. And I personally cannot think of a scenario in which flipping 2 middle fingers is more appropriate there. Honestly, if he could have grown another hand in that moment, I would not have blamed him for throwing up a 3rd bird for good measure. But the facts that came out afterward didn't really matter, because by then,
like the fact that we don't talk more about the reality that Governor Greg Abbott and Ron DeSantis, who didn't even have migrants in his state, but he just like shipped them from Texas to all these different places in a human trafficking scheme and got 0 punishment whatsoever. Like, throw the entire Democratic administration in prison, okay? For not throwing those 2 guys in prison. Like, how? How are we as a country at this goddamn level? How are we as a nation at a level where, like, we are literally trafficking hundreds of thousands of undocumented migrants to other states to them over? And this isn't to say that, like, undocumented migrants people up, okay? To deliberately disrupt their immigrant processing structure okay? If they gave prior go-ahead, if they gave prior knowledge to these other states, if they legitimately did not have the resources to process these migrants and actually had needed help, a normal government in that circumstance would reach out first to the federal government and say, hey, we need more resources pronto. We need it immediately. We need more translators. We need more lawyers. We need more judges. And then the federal government would work to actively set that structure up. And if they didn't have enough space, enough housing, for example, which obviously is not the case in Texas, but the idea that, like, if they couldn't deal with it, then they would be like, hey, we need additional help from like surrounding states, or maybe even Illinois or New York. Like, and then you set it up. You set it up ahead of time. You reach out to the other states and you say, hey, we have to send some of these additional migrants in an overflow because they, unfortunately, we cannot process them. We don't have enough resources. We don't have enough manpower to do so. Like, that's how it's supposed to work. Okay. That is how it's supposed to work. That's what a competent government would do. Okay. But instead of doing that, we literally had this process where these people were like being duped and getting shipped out to other states without telling the other goddamn state, deliberately, so they could gum up their works like they're mere pawns, not human beings with like wives, children, dreams. They did this during a blizzard. Yeah. I mean, it was just so crazy. And the fact that the federal government did not actually immediately throw every single person that was involved in this scheme in jail is a crime in and of itself. It is malicious negligence. Okay. I don't understand it. Like, I don't get it. Or even after the fact, let's say they did do this. How the federal government not step in and go to Illinois and go to New York State and say, hey, we're going to give you additional funds. Okay. We're going to give you additional funds. We're going to have some of these migrants actually placed in other facilities elsewhere, because clearly you are having an issue with like the overflow, or you're having an issue with the amount of migrants that are coming in and the frequency and the rate in which they're coming in. Like, they didn't even do that. They could have turned around and done that and been like, see, we have the capacity to deal with these people. Instead, we basically just let them become a political pawn. It's just incompetence on the one side and cruelty on the other. And it blows my mind that not a single person is like actively trying to fix it. You're asking all the right questions. Well, welcome to the broadcast. These are things that I have been demanding from the Biden administration from the start of this drama. Okay. The moment that this happened, the first time this happened, I said, arrest them and immediately deal with the issues, offer additional funds, and turn this political game of pawn into something that is beneficial to a pro-immigrant argument. Fuck it. Arrest Governor Greg Abbott regardless. You know what I mean? Even not for that, just for having vibes. Honestly. Fuck.
Migrant crime was already out there as a phrase, and ever since, Fox and the Republicans have been hammering the idea that migrants are dangerous. And because, again, there is no data to back up claims of a migrant crime wave, they've instead had to resort to anecdotes or exaggeration. For instance, the Republican National Committee made a website tracking alleged examples of migrant crime called BidenBloodbath.com. If you go to it, you'll find the names of 13 different states, which you can click on to find evidence of so-called migrant crime there. But for 4 of those states, when you click through, you'll find all they're able to cite is those states' overall rates of fentanyl deaths. And look, those deaths were tragic, but you cannot connect them to migrant crime, given that to the extent fentanyl has been seized at the border, 90% of the time it was seized during legal crossings, and 91% of those seizures were from US citizens, which of course they were. If you want to move drugs across the border, you're going to do it with American citizens because they attract less attention from authorities. I'm not telling you how to move drugs. But if you are going to, that is the only smart way to do it. So I have just told you how to move drugs. And as for people crossing illegally, just 0.009% of people arrested by Border Patrol last year were found to possess any fentanyl whatsoever. So, and I cannot believe I'm saying this, but I don't know if BidenBloodbath.com is the reliable source of news and information that we all thought it was. And look, I am not saying that there haven't been individual migrants who committed crimes. Of course there have, because migrants are people, and some people do bad things in the same way some ABBA fans and some people with SpongeBob tattoos have committed crimes. And if it so happens that there is someone out there who is a migrant ABBA fan with multiple SpongeBob tattoos, The only thing they're likely to be guilty of is being an utterly fascinating human being. What is your story, dude? I have so many questions about what brought you to this point. The thing is, if you want to prevent crime and death, that's a great idea. And there are absolutely ways to do that. But when you draw a circle around a few members of a particular group, especially one identifiable by race or nationality, then generalise about what this means about all of them, no matter what you say, you're not having a reasoned debate about crime or safety. You're being racist. And the depressing thing is, all this fear-mongering has been effective. Over 70% of Republicans now believe there is a high risk of people illegally coming to the US and committing crime, something which, again, is demonstrably and provably false. As we know, immigrants aren't causing more crime in this country. If they're leading to more of anything, it's more good food and more people who cannot believe how mean we are to our moms. And what is doubly infuriating is that too many Democrats have been willing to go along with this false narrative. Biden has repeatedly been pressured into imposing stricter immigration restrictions, most recently in June, when he imposed sweeping new asylum restrictions for the US-Mexico border. Earlier this year, he actually pushed for an even tougher immigration bill, which Trump explicitly told Republicans not to support, arguing it would give the Democrats a political victory, suggesting none of this is about safety at all. It's entirely self-serving. And that absurd Times Square incident that supercharged this whole migrant crime panic nonsense ended up pushing some Democratic leaders into stupid public statements like this one from Governor Kathy Hochul, who had this to say about the
Just demonstrably shout out. Yeah, dude, one of the writers is tapped in. Also, Kathy Hochul, however you say her name.
Get them all and send them back. You don't touch our police officers. You don't touch anyone.
Yeah, it's true. You don't touch anyone in New York City, do you? Unless, it seems, someone calls your friend Ugly Betty, or you happen to be dressed as a Parisian tomato and hear someone speaking Spanish, in which case, all bets are off. And the thing is, even after so much of that Times Square story unravelled, some of the people caught up in it have continued to pay a significant price. Two of the people who were there, neither of whom were accused of touching the officers, were detained for months on Rikers Island, and one is still there. Look, for the last time, migrant crime is not on the rise. That is a fact. What is also a fact, though, is that people now feel that it is. And that feeling has the potential to cause...
Every couple of months, the media will do coverage on this and be like, why is everybody so upset about crime when it seems like crime is objectively down? And it's like, you, man, you didn't address the reality for months and sometimes leaned into the narrative. That's the reason why people think crime is up when it's very clearly not up and down, as a matter of fact. And the same goes for this shit. It seems like liberal media is just asleep on the wheel and either, at best, not doing any coverage of the truth, or at worst, actively spreading misinformation by leaning into the right-wing narratives. And it's so frustrating because we're actively making so many people in this country, and not just like the psycho Republicans, but even like Democrats as well. We're actively turning them into psychotic monsters who are just like bloodthirsty and desperate for some kind of violence at this point. We're just making the country worse actively. And sometimes it does feel like there's nothing, like I try my very best, but it just feels like there's nothing I can do. And then the New York Times writes an article about misinformation. They put into that article that I am spreading misinformation at the same clip that like these young conservatives are, which are the target of my scorn for the most part. So I guess both sides are doing some misinformation.
Cause massive harm, and all of this is making solving the genuine issues around immigration, like dealing with the massive backlog in our immigration courts and providing cities help in sheltering and supporting migrants awaiting asylum hearings, that much harder. So, what can we do? Well, I don't know if you've noticed, but we're currently 4 months out from an election. So just assume that the underlying what can we do for most of our US stories from now until then is going to be do not vote for Donald Trump. Again, that seems like that should be barely worth saying. Like, drink water or go to the...
Or at the top of the hour, there's a 3-minute ad break. And if you no longer want to see those ads, all you need to do is subscribe for $5 or for free. Or by getting gifted a sub. If you're lucky, here's the 3-minute ad break now. Also, after this video, I'm going to watch one other Harry Enton video about J.D. Vance's horrifying poll results, Trump backing out of the debate, And then I'm going to get to a video that my friend sent me for my birthday. And also, I'll open some of these birthday gifts that are behind me. Some people, including but not limited to FaZe Banks, as a matter of fact, sent some birthday gifts to me. So we'll be taking a look at that. King Henry IV, thank you for the 20 community gifted subs. How are you going to be a 33-year-old man and open birthday gifts like you're an iPad kid is the question I'm asking myself.
The dentist, but it does bear repeating because, be honest, when was the last time you drank water or indeed went to the dentist? Exactly. And look, I'm not saying by any means that Biden is perfect or even good when it comes to immigration. But he or whoever winds up being the Democratic candidate, because who on earth knows anything about that right now, is going to be incontrovertibly better than the alternative. And I know this has been a bleak few weeks.
Chozo, thank you for the 33 gifted subs. That's so funny. He mentioned that, but Biden dropped out after he made this video.
Reports of anonymous Democrat leaders saying things like, we've all resigned ourselves to a second Trump presidency. Because frankly, there is just too much on the line here to give up like that. Trump and the bigots around him plan to use his victory to make immigrants' lives absolute hell, and he is not exactly hiding that.
They're sending their murderers to the United States of America. This is going to be very bad. And bad things are going to happen, and you're seeing it happen all the time. That's why, to keep our families safe, the Republican platform promises to launch the largest deportation operation in the history of our country.
Yeah, I mean, he's saying it pretty much all out loud there to enthusiastic cheers from a crowd, some of whom have cheese on their heads. And he's not making that up either. That is the Republican Party's official position now. Their new platform calls for the largest deportation operation in American history. They even made official signs for people to wave, reading mass deportation now. And even if the courts slow that attempt down, which is by no means a guarantee, Project 2025 offers them lots of other bureaucratic ways to hurt immigrants, from terminating the legal status of 500,000 Dreamers by eliminating staff time to review and process their renewal applications, to barring US citizens from qualifying for federal housing subsidies if they live with anyone who is not a US citizen or legal permanent resident. Those plans are outrageous, and if Trump wins, they could be public policy. And Democratic leaders cannot sit back and resign themselves to that. There are so many things that we as Americans do have to resign ourselves to: airline cancellations, a national anthem with too many high notes, Glenn Powell inevitably starring in a Field of Dreams remake. We can't fight those things, but we can and must fight this. And at the end of this week, it should be clear to absolutely everyone, it doesn't matter if Trump and his party say they have a new tone or nominally call for unity or throw a cute dog on stage for some reason. They have told us who they are. They've told us what they want. They literally put it on a sign and waved it in everyone's face. They are trying to win this election by pointing a finger at immigrants, and the only appropriate response is to take a cue from the so-called symbol of the Biden presidency and say, that shit. And now, this.
And now, a few more highlights from the Republican National Convention.
Yes, baby doll. Baby doll! Oh, that's my baby doll. What if
really expect that, did you? We were at Mar-a-Lago, and someone came up to him and said, Mr. Trump, Rod Stewart just walked in. And he said, I don't care. This is Ben Carson.
Donald Trump, 21 club championships. Joe Biden, 0.
You want to be a rebel? You want to be a hippie? You want to stick it to the man? Show up on your college campus and try calling yourself a conservative.
I soon went from making waffles to making history.
The only speech or poem or song that I ever made my kids memorize when they were young, when they were little, it was the Gettysburg Address.
You'll never hear me say, I'm on God's side, or God's with me, or even I'm with God.
This morning I did walk out of a federal prison.
And I haven't even started my hot flashes yet, guys. Just wait.
No Rogaine in the propane flow. The chosen one, I'm the living proof.
This is our last chance to make America great again.
I was bleeding like a pig, and I won the world title right in front of Donald J. Trump.
Thank you, Kid Rock.
sometimes referred to as Bob. Stay fighting! Stay fighting!
Dude, this is so much better overall than like the Democratic National Convention. Like, it's just, there's no way. Like, they're so desperate. They're so desperate for like any kind of celebrity superstar attention. And the best they can do is like Hulk Hogan and Kid Rock and Dana White. But honestly, it just comes across so much funnier. Whereas like the DNC could probably get like Taylor Swift and shit or Beyonce. And even then it's just like hollow. It like doesn't, it's not as fun. I don't know how to explain it. It's just lame. These guys are also lame, but like at least it's like kind of, they're having fun with it. When I look at the DNC, when I look at that shit, I'm like, ugh. Also, I don't even think they do that kind of stuff. Do they do that kind of stuff at DNC?
Say Trump! Trump!
Ken Carson performing at the DNC, that would be amazing. I don't think that that's going to happen. That'd be pretty funny. All right. One quick note on JD Vance before I get to this. Hold on. Let me see if I can download this. 1 second. I'm downloading a YouTube video.